The Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
By Nicole Santalucia, and I'll give you a little short bio of Nicole, and then I'll say a couple of things. Nicole is the author of The Book of Dirt by New York Quarterly Books, Spoiled Meat, Headmistress Press, and Because I Did Not Die, Bordighera Press. Her work has appeared in publications such as the Colorado Review, Palette Poetry, the Best American Poetry, the Los Angeles Review, North American Review, Sonora Review, 14 Hills, the Cincinnati Review, and the Rumpus. The Normal School Out magazine and elsewhere. She is a professor of English, the director of first year writing, co-chair of the LGBTQ plus advisory council, and serves on the steering committee of the Institution for Social Inclusion at Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. And I will say that Nicole is my student as an undergraduate, and as she said, she came in one day and she had shaved her head, so she was completely bald. I thought I was going to drop dead on the floor, and I was really worried about her. Oh my God, she shaved her head. But then she went off to New York, and she graduated from Binghamton, went off to New York, got an MFA from the New School, and then she decided to come back to Binghamton for her PhD, where she was my student and where she wrote wonderful poems. Let's welcome the inimitable Nicole Santalucia.
Thanks, Maria. Thank you so much for inviting me to lead the workshop that just took place before this reading, and having the opportunity to work with all the wonderful poets who just shared some powerful poems that we wrote together, and for your force of humanness and love that you put out into the world. So thank you so much. And yes, I do remember shaving my head in an act of rebellion and showing up at your doorstep and then my mother's doorstep. But yeah, the hair in the family was such an identity marker for the women, and I was trying to fight back without having the words. So that was the act. I'm going to be reading poems from my newest book that's just coming out from Bordighera Press in April, called Lesbian Dinosaurs, Dinosaur Lesbians. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with some of the poems out of this book and not dip into the older ones. I just got the I've only been sitting with the hard copy of the book for a week, so it's fresh and I'm excited, and that's where we're going to go with this. I'll start with the first poem in the book. It's called Conversations in the Garden. I never thought I'd wake up with fruit in my pants and hear corn ring like a telephone. The lettuce is getting louder. The metallic underbelly of the raspberry bush rests on my tongue. I am not sure how to answer the corn, but now that I am here, I will pick and eat its ear. The tomatoes are prostituting and the fava beans popping, which is to say, I garden now. And sometimes I forget that I used to fill my pockets with fruit and smash my fists against my body. I carry a $10 bill in my sock and a picture of you in my shoe, a tribute to Bernice on her 80th birthday. To love in the shape of feet is to kick heaven right in the puff. It must be our anniversary. All the tomatoes burst this morning, the sky yellow and purple flesh. Lesbians spread their seed under bruised clouds. We stand in the middle of everything, in a garden next to the carrots, in a box behind a fence. The neighbors weed around our ankles. stare out their kitchen windows while gay rain beats on our gay heads. So the poem continues to, or the book continues with poems that move in and out of domestic spaces, and many love poems in this book to my wife. This next one's called Whaler. It's after reading only the title really, but after reading Merwin, who also has a poem titled Whaler. Our eating and hugging habits don't happen underwater like they used to. My wife feeds on whale facts while my whale body plays dead. My big whale mouth opens. Look at the Lesbos in the Arctic sky rubbing salt in their wounds. You can see them when the moon hits the ice, like cherries and snow and red syrup pumping through 400 pounds of heart. They devour their hunters and disappear like fog. You can recognize the bloody drama at the whaling station, where our meat and bones have a spiritual presence. As our bodies swell, we become the history of candlelight. I no longer deny my whale heart. I burn artificial light while I carve our marriage into my arms and legs and cheeks. Nonsense, this business of building boats and eating power so thick that it hurts. I dare you to build a compost pile, lob blubber from your thigh, then go wash your hands and look out the kitchen window. Clouds push 600,000 gallons of love to my wife, traveling at 2 beats per minute. The closest translation is hunger. If you pay attention to the pink moon, hold your breath, and open your eyes underwater, you might get a glimpse of breeding season. Yeah, and I did a lot of Wikipedia researching about the history of whaling stations. So I don't know how accurate the facts are, but yeah, that was after reading Merwin, a love poem to my wife, and looking up whaling station facts, all woven together. Before that, before and after Merwin. It was 2 women and a tadpole, and never at night, and always above water where old age happens, and vegetables are for sale, and surgically removed grapes fit into our eye sockets. Before it all depended on laundry detergent, before infection, before the history of seeing, before a broad sense of darkness between her legs and my legs in a freezer next to a fox. Before the perfect conditions for the story about a man walking. These women swam and water lapped. Before our baptism, there was a frog and a fox named Stanley, raised in New Jersey, where everyone thought they were sisters. Before they arrived on land with air in their lungs, ready to huff and puff and blow it all into one wish. Before wishes, they were trees. The 3 flat-rooted pines under her breath, and fungus in her lungs, and heart knots in her veins. And before digging implied we were above these illusions, and before emergence, and then fading and forgetting, which is how we got here. It is by self-forgetting, or it is by doing laundry and licking, and before pleasure and armpits and words with bacteria, and propagating, and potatoes budding, and of love, and without permission, and before that, a moving target with one hand in each hand, one eye in each hand. Before the exact ratio of sodium, magnesium, and potassium in great-grandmothers, and their needs, and genetically determined shapes, and fibroids, and uteri, and adrenal glands, and polywogs, every 26 days and counting, and below words, and a change of underwear, and a change of heart, and loaded, then unloaded. Writing a little bit in line with Alicia Ostraker's inspiration too, with reinventing the myths and stories that we all know are rooted in religious texts. Out of hunger, after Mary O. This was after listening to a lecture, an interview with Mary Oliver, where she talked about surviving lung cancer and walking through the woods looking for clams and food out of hunger. What we are made of eventually makes something else. The day fools us, the dishes are dirty, hummingbirds arrive. In every poem, wilderness eats us from the inside. While you gather food, we foolishly wander behind you. We soak our bones in poison, convince ourselves of dirt. This isn't a giving. No, we make anger out of acorns. Willingness and slippery. It's been 21 years since my last drink. I narrate it every day as if the drink will talk back like a god made of pine needles. And bluebells shoot at my feet. And this is the dance, high knees, hopping on the grass next to the garden. My wife in the kitchen window, the daffodils in bloom. This exhilaration would have turned into pain had I not been able to share it with you. Thanks, Maria. This next one's called Mercy. Mercy squats between a fact, an opinion, a belief, and a judgment. And the difference between naked and nude is candied fruit. Lesbians, they fall on you in the middle of the night. It happens to the best of us. Anger in our ears, around our tongues, falling on the bedroom floor. The lesbian eventually wears off. Held by the scruff, I swallow my house key every morning just in case I get locked out. I also get to live with ladyfinger plants and pluck feathers off my face until faith becomes habit. Under every fruit is another fruit, and women telling the truth smells like asparagus with its skin peeled off. Lock her up makes sense because I am in a padded room. Or is that me trapped in a Merwin poem about to self-pollinate? I wonder if I smell like a lesbian, if he'll notice that I crawled into the last stanza of Mercy to piss on the side of the road. Not a person, but a bear or bird that's been hunted spits truth into my mouth and I spit it right back in its eye as if the cure is hissing until our mouths dry out. I think that one's a little angry. This is called The Professor Cries, which is a title from Ruth Stone's poem, The Professor Cries, and it is after Ruth Stone, and it ends with a line by Ruth Stone, which is, "This is what comes of having no pity." The professor cries. I remember the black shoelaces that held skin to her bone and blue to her eye sockets. She was in the eggshell across the hall from mine. We survived every boring inch of the rooms that flattened us for 40 days and 40 nights. Windows the size of our foreheads, salt stains in the shape of our names. I could see her whole body. Her face is missing. I wonder if the scars on her arms still read RACHEL, or if they've been translated into chicory and bee balm. Is her skin thicker than mine? Does it feel like milkweed on the side of the road, like gravel? My torso hardened into tree bark, except for the pink scar below my left breast. The scabies got bad, and the showers were worse. What happens when the sky falls? When skin splits, when spaghetti overcooks, when plastic spoons melt and dreams hang and fruit rots and students catch on fire every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 3:15 p.m.? Do I pour water on their heads and hope for a miracle? Do I suffocate them with wool blankets? Do I call 911 and lock the door and get under the desk or jump out the window or crawl deeper into my head until I disappear? This is how memory cracks. Yesterday, I smelled burnt brains in my classroom. From inside the egg, I crack. Every bird breaks free and some smash flat on pavement. Crushed bird beak wedged into tire treads. I confuse drywall and cocaine and dead bird, and sometimes teaching reminds me of when I lived in rubber and flesh with padded walls and plexiglass. I was 14 when I birthed and swallowed dead bird. Before I left the room, before I walked across campus, before the committee meeting started, I tasted my previous life. Before I cracked the window, I held my breath. Until yesterday, I waited to get caught. My 42-year-old gut heaved. I sank into my intestines, fell down my neck, and floated to the bottom like pennies in a pond. Like when I was sent off to boarding school. Like when I shoved light bulbs into my wrists and sucked orange slices and jumped off the church steeple and snorted ninth grade and huffed and puffed until I was gay. Until I was locked away and away and away. Until a tent shifts and snow turns sour. Until past participles leap out of my body and my bones curl. This is what comes of having no pity. Yeah, so I mean, I love Ruth Stone's, how her, one poem that ends, I live in Johnson City, and how she, I was born and raised in Binghamton and Johnson City. So like kind of having crossed paths with her at Binghamton. And I remember seeing her read a bunch of times at Binghamton, but I was always too afraid to take her workshop because I was shy. So I feel like I'm trying to catch up in conversation with her in some of my poetry these days. But yeah, this captures some of my struggles from when I was a teenager and a kid with addiction in that particular piece, and my current life of teaching. This is called A Bowl of Fruit on the Table. In this case, I am not the alcoholic. It's bananas. Since before childhood, pure drug addiction and sticks and stones and paper plates. I splash around like yellow fruit. Before it splatters, it swaps itself out for my legs, and the cinematic quality heightens. Coincidentally, Ann Miller is trending in everyone's garden. I cut my fingernails. In the kitchen, brown bananas disembody their art form. Imagine an encounter with the process of elimination. I am a boobied dinosaur in pursuit of fiber. Just before the power goes out, all the bananas point to a version of me brushing my teeth as I spit into an old hierarchy of values and a pile of dirty spoons. On Monday, I held a banana like a bird and collapsed. Okay, this is called Captive, and this is in honor of a friend of mine who passed away. She was sober a long, long time and a big part of my sober journey. It's called Captive for Leslie, Patty, Kathy, and Eileen. I woke up in a zoo feeding penguins that looked like grandmothers I would have knocked down to get a cigarette. But I quit smoking 2 years ago when I came face to face with a skunk in my backyard. That's a true story. I'll have to tell that after. Monday is garbage night. This I know. There was a time when I didn't know I had a drug problem, and then there was a time when I did. The knowing trapped and released me. We fenced in the backyard last spring to keep out the little critters. And now I have land sickness. Anne gave us Jack in the pulpits that have been in the family for generations. I never thought this scarlet orange fruit would blossom again and again and again, that I'd take responsibility without taking blame. Taking has nothing to do with Mondays and Tuesdays. I take the weekend to grow tomatoes. I always take more, and the devil's ear listens to my spiritual disease. So do Mr. and Mrs. Brown, and Mrs. Jones down the street wants to put the house in her name. If the loan doesn't go through, she might get drunk and I might get struck by lightning. I thought it was just me, but it is also the landscape. Here at the River of Denial, I refuse the weather. And people who drink like me have been hiding in the bushes this whole time. The people who drank like Kathy just sent her a nice check from a bar she invested in years ago. And my inner Eileen says, we won't get struck drunk. She hated zoos, and every penguin in town knew it. She also had pulmonary emphysema and was rescued by inhaling and exhaling. She taught us not to think about thinking and how to die without dying. We are at war with the skunks. This inner protest and hothead of cauliflower are part of the ritual. I place my palm on the source of heat and prepare to listen with my whole body. I begin with tubers and work my way to the leafy greens, then open myself up to the rage and wild onions, climbing over the fence to choke out the tree of heaven. Um, yeah, but my quitting smoking story is in there, and I took me a long time to catch up with the shame around smoking. And it was when I went out one night late for a cigarette, and a skunk walked by me, and I felt so embarrassed. And I mean, that was it. That's all it took. I mean, that's what got me. I mean, I wasn't embarrassed to do smoke all those other times, but I think it was building and building and building. And anyway, yeah, the skunk and me an embarrassment. And then doctors to help me get off the nicotine. I never thought I'd wake up a middle-aged lesbian, standing at the kitchen sink, wilting in the garden, lawnmowers, wooden fences, ladybugs, a leaky rubber hose coiled in the grass. But here I am, washing dishes, staring out the window, searching for something to put in this poem. When there's nothing left, memorize Emily, or fill it with whatever comes to mind, like a John. Speaking of John, he won a magic trick that transported us to the moon and back. And there's a dream that goes door to door selling skin cream and potions best applied with a cotton ball. Face magic sales soared last year, especially for the saleswoman who remarried a magician. Their disappearing act is out of this world. The magic words, don't say gay, and voila, I'm a wife wearing a faggot fur coat. How else do I write about my childhood crushes? How else do you get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Don't answer. We know there's a prize at the bottom of every cereal box. Imagine this, 1989, 3:45 p.m., afternoon sun, a green chalkboard half in light, half in shadow. I will not kiss girls 1,000 times in an empty classroom. A teenage drug addict, a 30-year binge, a liar. This is how young lesbians disappeared in the 80s in middle school. No one went looking for them. Sometimes they reappeared on a softball field or in a crack house or on a street corner, or 30 years later at the kitchen sink. Or now, when I stand at the front of a classroom on the first day of the spring semester as a nice lady who cuts her name into ice and waits for it to melt. Okay, I'm gonna read maybe a couple more here. This is called An Ambassador for Love. It kind of sounds like formaldehyde, restarting, stripping away sacraments, beginning with the moon, replacing it with her head facing earth, as if to smother it in forgiveness, in combustion, in pretending, and revenge, in cutting what is not theirs, starting with her feet and breasts and mouth. I am hollowed out as we wait for the doctor to call with my wife's test results. Yesterday we walked through the horses, and the big brown one reached over the fence with her nostrils. Breath like this is what we keep reaching for. This is how we press into each other when one of us is home and the other out getting groceries. But what if one of us jumps out of the story into the horse, and one of us vanishes. That Sunday evening, horse breath on your shoulder, nuzzled into your neck, hair rustled, a cardinal perching high up on a branch, the farm cats walking beside us in the middle of not knowing, and horse shit and bird shit.
Mm.
This is called Just a Couple of Housewives Doing Housework, or a couple of wives doing housework. In the future, old men still yip yap, Pasternak and knick knack Kerouac. I'm afraid that one day I won't roll all the way home. But here I am talking on the phone, planning a garden in Pennsylvania, while my wife changes light bulbs and waits for New York State electric and gas to pull up in a truck. It is in this direction where we run out of breathing room and clean water and refuse to be fooled. The other half of the time I am cooking eggs and failing to notice my wife arranging tulips on the dining room table. Their pigments a concerto, pink, yellow, and white ornamental lips, poisonous to cats. It's no accident we twist tulip bulbs into the ceiling and expect light. I spread a map on the table. It's not entirely wrong, but it does eliminate history. I wonder if it is America who my wife sets the table for, if the tulips are strong enough to blind us. And I'll end with this poem. This is the last poem. It's called In the Age of Fake News and No Science. My wife is Sicilian, and I descend from a long line of saints. Together, we know how to get rid of the body without dropping the subject. But the thing is, sometimes the trees are on fire and sometimes they are on ice because people behave badly. Pretty soon we'll lace up our cement shoes and swim with the fishes. That's what my grandparents used to always say. I don't know if I am coming or going, is what my grandfather whispers over the gravy every Sunday morning. I didn't know he was talking to the future, and neither did he. It's no laughing matter. Everything that happened to him is happening to somebody else, and we are growing pine cones in the living room. Picadillos don't grow on trees. Money does. One way or another is fine with me. It's hereditary. This business of turning 40 and hiding all the evidence was bound to happen. We have a little mob blood running through our veins, and we don't need to eavesdrop in graveyards to hear what they are saying on the other side. Talk about the wrong direction. Leave it to America to go that way. I'm facing west and planning on going straight, then left, but something wants me to jump out the window, and I probably will. This suction of life is stronger than you think. I bet vinegar will remove those stains. The next time I sweep the kitchen might lead to a stronger beginning. Maybe it'll be the Tuesday after next when I search for the thing that can save us. And that's where I'll pause. So thank you again for asking me to speak and lead the workshop, and for all the participants and Maria for their wonderful poetry and inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Pleasure, as usual. Thank you.